if we really want to know how much progressive a country is, then we should really closely look how the country treats its women. As the Taliban regime returned, many were scared, as Taliban had a reputation of being barbaric, and they were famous for their torture and the way they had treated women, and not to mention the condition of the women. And many were very skeptical about what's going to happen, and whether, and we are not sure. Until now, Afghan women were not allowed to go. Afghan teenage girls and the girls who are above that age are not allowed to go to school. So we do not know that what comes next. But speaking about the Afghan society and the history of Afghan, it was not always like that. There was a time when Afghan women had enjoyed all the privileges that women should have aspired for. So Afghan women were they were liberated, they were taking higher studies, they were working, they were doing all those stuffs that that a modern woman should aspire. Now Afghanistan story is a very interesting story, because here what we are going to do, we are going to learn about that how the Afghan society had transformed from the modern society to the conservative one. Now I am going to talk about some kings who had tried to brought some reforms in the Afghan society. So let me begin with the story of Abdul Rahman Khan. Abdul Rahman Khan was Emir of Afghanistan from 1880 to 1901. He introduced many reforms with respect to women, such as right to divorce, raised the legal age of marriage, and gave the women right to property. Then came Amanullah Khan. Amanullah Khan was inspired by Kemal Ataturk in Turkey. He granted civil rights to all, including women. He outlawed the strict dress codes that was there according to the conservative tradition. New schools were created both in villages and in urban areas, and it was open for both boys and girls. Forced marriages were outlawed, and there was an attempt to ban polygamy. However, this brought the backlash, and Amanullah was thrown out by the conservative. When Zahir Shah and his cousin Daud returned, they started the liberalization of Afghan women. So at this time, Afghan women were doing all those things that a modern woman should aspire for. So they were running businesses, they were doing higher studies, they were doing job, they were free to do, and they had the access to education and freedom. However, everything changes when the communists took over. Now we have to understand one thing. Afghan society is a conservative society, and it depends on the strong family value system. A society which is conservative, which is traditional, so naturally that society is bound to be very religious as well. During 1978, when communist regime had come to the throne in Afghanistan, they tried to wipe out the the religion part, and they were very much excited, or they were in a hurry to impose the model which does not apply to the to the Afghanis, which resulted in the uprising. And to suppress that uprising, which was going against the communist regime, the Soviet Union had to intervene with the military operation. Now, this was the time where the downward spiral of the Afghanistan had begun. So, during the Afghan-Soviet struggle, Mujahideen came into place. Mujahideen was a conservative religious group who was so-called who was resisting against the Soviet army. But at the same time, there were some reports where these people were responsible for raping women, were responsible for the brutality, because these men had thrown acid to some women's face because they were not wearing burqa. So though these things were not taken very seriously, but naturally the trailer was shown to the people that what the condition of the Afghan women would be. And then came the Taliban regime. The Taliban regime was considered as the most, it is considered as the darkest edge in the Afghan history. The conservative ideology is at one place, but the method the Talibanis had used in order to make people subjugate to their conservative ideology is really horrifying. Talibanis had not even thought of their reputation. First of all, what they did was they banned women in the public spaces. Then slowly they banned the women to access the education, and they brought the parda system, where women had to cover herself in the complete well, and so such women were often referred as the blue ghost, because the color of that burqa, the burqa that Afghani women used to wear, was blue in color. And if anybody dared to defy the Taliban's order, then what's the consequence? Then what could be the consequence then? The consequence was death. It was either torture, either your limbs could be cut off, either your fingers could be cut off, or you might be executed in a very harshest manner one can imagine. Now again, in August 2021, Taliban once again came to power in Afghanistan, and as people had the traumatic experience of that regime, so there are many questions that is coming out. And besides, I think that I do not make to recall you that how the people of Afghanistan were desperate to leave the country, and they were just trying. There was a time where they were hiding their documents if they had served, or if they had helped the foreign army, or a video where women were crying and pleading for help. So these situations were very common when Taliban took over Afghanistan, and the situation of the Afghanistan is really very dire. Until now, the teenage women and the women of that age are not able to access education at this point of time. On top of that, the Taliban had ordered women to cover their face by the veil, and she is also advised that a woman should always travel with her male relative. So let us understand what we learn from all these events. Number 1, any extremist conservative movement which gets the support of majority is instrumental in killing the rights of women. Number 2, a society is made up of both men and women. If the women's participation lacks, then the society deteriorates, and as we have seen what happened after the Taliban took over Afghanistan. Number 3, every culture, every society is different. The step towards modernity should be taken slow and steadily. Hey guys, so this is the end of this video. If you like this video, then please put the thumbs up and please share and comment.